Had to replace the radiator in the 03 4Runner. Here was the leak right here, down in the bottom section. It was showing a little bit. It was kind of coming down. Had to take off your reservoir bottle. It was 3 bolts in the back. And you had to take off your little cap of that and that little hose, and then you had to take off the radiator cap. Those were 10 millimeters, 3 bolts. You had 4 bolts to hold the radiator support. I used 12 millimeters on the front. The back seemed like a 13 fitted. I used a wrench and just pulled it out. There's a support, that one, and then down below through that little hole, that right there, that's the bottom section. Had to use an extension with a ratchet. Fan shroud, had to take off 2 bolts. It was 10 millimeters, and then the bottom had 2 little resting clips that it falls into. 1 transmission line right there, and another one right here that disconnected from the radiator. You have to make sure that they're facing upwards so you don't lose much of that fluid. The drain underneath where the radiator was right there. You just unscrew that plastic piece, and then it has a little tube that can drop out, or it can just drain out the full thing if you take the whole piece off. Make sure you want to have a pail or something to grab all that when it dumps it out, and you want to keep these grommet pieces to exchange into the new one. And you have these push pins. Of course, you have to take those out. You got that large plastic piece that runs across the front here. You'll have an assortment of them. Then there's a couple in here, but you have to take that off. V6 4.0 liter 4Runner, and they have 2 10 millimeter. I used deep socket to take these 2 bolts off, and then you just pull it this way, and that top piece would come out. 2 transmission lines that attach to that radiator are a little bit difficult to get off, so I tried to pull it by hand, won't go, so usually I grab some channel locks, and you just basically grab it right next to the radiator where it fits into it, just clamp it down just kind of light, and then you can twist it back and forth like that, and that usually will break it free, and then you can pull it off by hand. It makes it easier. The radiator started leaking out of that bag. I don't know, it must have had a hole in it or something, but that was a better picture of it right there. But yeah, it was all in that area, and it had another leak in that area. I just put some of that pig mat underneath there for temporary, but that's a good image of it there. Important note is when this grommet goes in here, there's actually a hook right there, and it's going to have to go into that little hole to fit in when you stick it in. That's a good little tip. Well, there it is, $288 from AutoZone. It's a CarQuest Premium, and that's the part number for it. Take the little pieces off here. I put those old 4 grommet pieces in the new radiator, and I just propped it up on the box carefully, and it's a good height to be able to work on it. I just put a couple pieces of masking tape on this side to hold this nut and washer combination so it don't fall out when you stick the radiator in there. Make sure that that bottom drain plug is turned all the way in when you get it, because this one turned just slightly. It was a little bit loose for my liking, so just make sure that's good and snug. Alright, in it goes. So that little piece you make sure it's top center, and it'll feed through. It goes in like that. Then the other side, I just ran the bolt through it just to hold it, but then you just put all 4 of your bolts in. You stick that bottom bolt in, just keep it in the ratchet, and then just run it in here, and then follow it out the other side. Give me 1 second. Just find it through them little holes, and then you can run it through. You don't have to push it together closer, but yeah, that's how you do that. And of course, the new radiator, it does not come with a radiator cap, so you're going to have to use your original. I'm about to install that. And this top bolt, it works better with the long extension on this. Reinstall them 4 hoses. You have that one there, and then you had the 2 transmission lines, and then the one at the very bottom, the big one, the lower radiator. And you'll have to get your cap from the original radiator, unless you wanted to buy a new one. This one seems to be in good condition, so I'm going to reuse it. Yeah, a lot of people, they're not fans of this spring clamp style design, but I don't really mind it. If it's in good shape, I'll reuse it. And as you see, I mean, it ain't going nowhere. When they clamp down, they're tight, and it's always constant tension, so you never wonder about it getting loose. That fan shroud piece, when you put it back in, just feed those two transmission lines through that and then snap it together, and it just holds them in place secure away from the fan. I took that fan shroud out when I went to stick this radiator back in, and sure enough, it won't go past the darn fan to slide through there. So I'm going to take this radiator back apart. So make sure you have this fan shroud in there in front of the fan and don't remove it. Alright, it's back in. Yeah, that fan shroud, it barely fits through with just having the radiator out completely, but I wished it would have been as easy to put the radiator in without that fan shroud. That would have been awesome. That's the correct antifreeze to go into it. Alright, got the reservoir back in. We got this 10mm bolt here that supports it, this one down here that supports it, then this one in the middle, it supports the fan shroud to the radiator, and then you got that one on the other side that's the fan shroud to the radiator. Alright, so I filled up the radiator to the top, so now I'm going to crank it up, let it run. Yeah, somehow I managed to lose my gloves, and then immediately, you know how that goes, it gets a little bit dirty. You can go ahead and put that engine cover back on there. Alright, this fun will fit much better too. I think this is specifically for a radiator. And safety first. Good to see the bubbles come up like that. That means it's moving through the system, but the thermostat has to open up. It's going to take a little bit longer. All the hoses look good. There's no leaks coming from anything. Looking pretty good. Might be almost done. Let's just see what kind of degrees we're getting in this heat. 158. Well, it just got back. It's raining a little bit outside, but that's basically the finished product. I'm spraying it out and stuff, so now it all looks good. Good and clean, it's just got to dry up. But it's a success. Done a good job. Wasn't too bad actually. Pretty good job. It's kind of fun to do. But let me put this little plastic cover piece on it and I'll show you that. Yeah, them push pins that was in there, they're kind of beat up now. They were just kind of brittle and was falling apart, so I went ahead and put some new ones in there from the little kit I got, but I just finished putting them in, but they're good and ready to go. Well, there's the finished product. I'm gonna put everything back together. So, no, it was kind of a long video, but I appreciate you stopping in. And like I say, when I do it, I like to do it right. It might take a little long, but there's just little tricks and things that you might have to learn doing certain stuff with these vehicles, and helps to have the right tools. But I appreciate you watching, and if you want to give a thumbs up, but should be good to go for another 100,000 miles or more. I appreciate it.